Hi, good morning, guys. I don't normally record Dominate Your Week, but I'm going to today because at the end we're doing the dot loop training. And I could make a note for myself to start the recording at 11 from so it just records the dot loop class for the half hour, but I'm afraid I will forget to do that. So better that you guys have this and then you can just fast forward to the end where the dot loop training is going to be. All right. So let's jump in because we've got a shorter version today of Dominate Your Week since we're going to be doing the dot loop training the last half hour. So let's just jump in and I'm going to let Kate talk here for a minute. And so we don't keep her waiting. But I'm going to jump in and do my share screen here so that you guys can see the post for this week. So Kate, what's happening? Can you give us a Jessica update and what's going on in Lending World while I pull this up?
Absolutely. Quick Jessica update. She is doing really, really well right now. She is planning on coming back to work just a couple hours a day over the next week or
Nice.
so. So she is doing great. As far as a lending update, we're seeing lots of folks apply with us right now that are coming from other lenders specifically. Some either not getting approved at all, or some people having just really false hope of what they thought that they could purchase. We have seen in this, I would say, past 60 days, a huge spike of people not verifying income, assets, employment, and issuing a pre-approval letter, which is not great. Definitely not what you want when you're working with a buyer.
Yeah.
That's a really quick way to get under contract and then have something fall out because of not having due diligence done on that purchase.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today in terms of our graphic is our closing cost amount. I have so many people that call me on a regular basis. Even folks that have literally, sold millions of dollars of real estate already, and they're wondering what's all included in the closing cost amount, or we had seller concessions, so why do they still have to pay closing costs? So our graphic today is all about closing costs. Closing costs are obviously paid by both buyers and sellers at the end of a transaction, and this graphic just kind of explains what all goes into that once they get to the closing table. I think oftentimes people just think it's, realtor commission and then maybe a lending fee. But in the reality, a lot of different things go into closing costs. And especially with people buying down their rate right now, the discount points can be a hefty charge. So getting a loan estimate is super important for folks who are pretty conscious on saving their money, especially if they don't have a ton of money to have come out of their pocket. So when they do get approved, asking for a loan estimate on a property that they're interested in is really helpful. So we can give them a monthly payment estimate and a cash to close estimate. So they're not, surprised once they get to the closing table.
Awesome. I like it.
Only other thing is we have a really, really cool class this week. Cliff and I are teaching a class for down payment assistance programs, not just through the state of Ohio, but with Cross Country Mortgage as well. And I want to be super clear that down payment assistance programs are good for anyone who qualifies for them. Essentially, it's free money, either from the state of Ohio or through Cross Country Mortgage, that allows your borrower to just save more money in their pocket to do other things like a renovation later on, or to buy down their rate, or do something that they typically couldn't do without using some kind of down payment assistance. So we're predominantly going to cover OFA, which is a statewide program, and then Cross Country Mortgage CCM Smart Start, which is a really, really cool product for anybody that's buying a house that wants to save $4,000. So I really hope you come. It's going to be a really cool class, and we'll have some lunch and some fun stuff for you.
What day and time?
It's on the 17th and it's from 11 to 12.
Good. Awesome. Any questions for Kate? And let me also say for the new people in the room, Kate is one of our preferred lenders cross country, and she is here every Monday to talk a little bit about lending, but also she always creates this co-branded post for us. And for those of you who don't know, I then download this into the Google Drive in the folder that's called Kate's social media posts for you guys to use. What I recommend that you do with it if you want to use this post is I then just upload it into Command. And then I put my picture, and as you can see, it already has the Keller Williams logo for all 3 market centers. And then I just put my name and information on the post, or you can post it as it is and then just put your name and information, in the caption in the post as well.
I do
Awesome.
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do they work with, like, would they work with me, or am I too far? Because I'm in Columbus.
Nope.
No, you
You can work
absolutely
in
with us.
Ohio,
Okay.
Sorry, who's that speaking?
Germany,
Germany, okay, and that's up living,
at Elevate. So she's in Columbus. Yep.
okay, perfect. Yeah, no, you're fine, Germany. I'll reach out to Gina after this to get some contact information, and you can,
Okay.
we'll start maybe a group text or something.
Okay, that works for me. Thank you.
Awesome.
Alright.
All right, guys. Let's talk about what you guys have going on. Let me also mention one announcement. And forgive me if we don't get through everybody today. I really want to be done by 11 so that we can do the Dotlieb class. So tomorrow is holding a successful open house. It's at Elevate in person from 11 to 12 and on Zoom. And by the way, guys, everyone's allowed to come to any of the market centers. Justin, I can tell you, if I don't see him on here right now, but he does a really good job of hopping market centers. He's come to Living, he's come to Elevate. We've had some people come down here. So I don't, it's not an expectation of mine to have you guys drive all the way to Cleveland, or for the Cleveland people to drive to Canton. But and Maria's also come in person as well up north. So do understand that you are more than welcome to do that. But of course, it'll be on Zoom, and we will be revealing our winners of the open house contest. So it seems we have a clear winner for Canton. I'm sure Janice and Sarah can tell us where they're at with that as well, but we won't release those winners' names until tomorrow at the class. So hope to see you guys there. All right. So Trent, this is your first Dominate Your Week in person. So tell us a little bit about what you're going to work on this week. And by the way, some of you are brand new, some of you are just visiting. And so I totally understand that the answer could be, I'm going to work on getting my crap together so I know what to work on. Like we just did your GPS this morning. Also, it's just, I'm here visiting, checking in to see what's going on here, or I'm just needing to get my photograph taken so I can order business cards. It doesn't have to be, I'm farming this neighborhood of 250 people, mailing stuff out, blah, blah, blah. So everybody is in a different kind of spot in their career. And some of you are just brand new. So that's okay too. So no pressure.
Yeah, so I'm Trent Pettit, brand new here. I've worked with Gina for a little bit over a year now to get situated here, but the next couple of weeks I'm working on my 30, 60, 90 plan. So there's a lot of things on there that I'm trying to check off the boxes to get myself ready for the future. Got a few of the smaller ones done, but starting to knock out some of the bigger ones. So happy to be here and meet you all. Hopefully down the road we'll be selling a lot of real estate.
Yeah, but we know you will. All right, what's going on with you?
I'm trying to be real brief. I'm working with the buyer. They don't have the buyer agreement signed yet, but we have looked. Trying to get them to, I talked to Kate, I can't get them to move forward with the pre-approval.
So a couple things about that. So there's buyers who are nervous about the pre-approval because maybe they know there's some iffy things potentially. Maybe they've got some credit debt, or they know their credit might not quite be as high as they think, and they just don't know that they can be approved or not. So they're a little bit worried, or they get embarrassed if they can't get approved. But we don't want to spend a ton of time in that place with someone, or the opposite. It's this, the arrogant, I know I can be pre-approved. I have an 800 credit score. I'm good with debt to income, or I make a ton of money and you're not going to tell me when I'm going to get pre-approved. I'll get pre-approved when I sell a house, like it's, or somewhere in between. And so what I'd say about that is a couple of things. I'll go out with you a couple of times without you being pre-approved, because if we only work with pre-approved buyers, guys, you're going to not sell as many houses, I promise. But I hear it all the time. It blows my mind when I hear an agent say out loud, I refuse to work with someone without a pre-approval. good, that's more business for us then, step out of the way, we will happily sell them a house, right? So it's ideal if they are, and here's why. So when you're trying to get them to go get pre-approved, here's the script. So, hey, I don't mean to keep bugging you about the pre-approval, but if we find, or when we find the house that you're going to love, and we never know when that's going to be, and then you walk in and it will be Friday at 8 p.m. or Sunday at 4 p.m. when the lender's not available to get you a pre-approval letter. And then how will we write an offer? That's the script. And you're asking the question. So I don't think that it ever sounds like pushy or pressure when you ask a question and not have to tell a statement. Like, we won't be able to get pre-approved on the weekend. That sounds so mean. What it is, so how do you plan to get pre-approved on the weekend? Listen, Kate works on the weekends, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if someone says, I'm going to my bank, I'm going to Chase Bank, well, they're not getting pre-approved on the weekend. So how do we write an offer if you don't have a pre-approval? And it always comes at the most inconvenient time. Like, I know I proof all your guys' offers, and I hardly ever proof an offer on Monday morning, ever. It's always evening, it's always weekend, and it's usually Sunday. I don't know why, just is. And so that's the script. Makes sense?
I took them to the house, they loved it. Got there even picture when furniture was going to something.
See,
And I told myself, well, unfortunately, they went highest and best by tomorrow at 5.
absolutely. And see, tomorrow at 5 is a really good thing. That's a positive. Usually it's today by 5.
Right,
So how are you going to make an offer if it's today by 5?
so they were kind of on board about getting pre-approved.
Okay.
Okay, got a group chat going, and they just haven't done it yet. So
Yeah.
I said, I just touching base, I messaged her this week, touching base. see-
Some people like to just do things on their own timeline. Like,
Yeah.
if they're a high D personality, you are not telling them what to do. They're going to do it when they want to, even if it's their own detriment. So just hang in there. Awesome.
Thanks, that's what's going on.
What are you working on this week?
Good, really new, so.
Yeah.
On my 30, 60, 90, working on.
Have you been to Dominate Week before? I
No,
feel like
this
you,
is my-
is this your first one? Okay. For some reason I pictured you here, but maybe not.
Yeah, working on the 30, 60, 90, and kind of just coming up, writing down all the names that I know, trying to get an idea of who my power base is and who my sphere of influence is. And then
Yeah. So
start contacting.
we need to get your GPS scheduled if we haven't scheduled that yet.
Is that with Amanda?
No,
No, that's the tech, yeah.
that's with Lynn, you're thinking. We need to get together to do the appointment I did with Trent this morning. So let's get that scheduled too here soon.
I know we have one on Thursday.
Then that's the appointment then okay, I don't have it memorized. I know we need to do it. So we probably have our appointment then Thursday, yes. So good, and that'll make things much more clear. So what we're talking about is the GPS. I'm pretty sure everybody on here has done one. But if you guys have not, if you have not done a GPS and you're at Living, you need to schedule one with Janice. If you're at Elevate, if you haven't done one, you need to schedule with Sarah. And of course, if you're here at Legacy and we haven't done one or an updated one in a while, we need to schedule that as well. So, because that's going to give you a clear path of the things that you need to focus on daily and weekly to kind of give you a place to start. But good. All right, well, great. We're excited to have you. Anna is here visiting. She is in school. I won't put you on the spot. But as I told her, most everybody came once or twice when they weren't licensed yet to kind of check things out. So she's just here kind of seeing what we're all about today. So welcome. You're welcome. Tell us what you guys have going on today, Tara and Mike.
We're keeping up with all of our buyers. It just seems like, again, all of our buyers are coming out of the woodwork now. So
Good.
it's the people that we've been working with for like a year.
Yeah.
That are finally coming into play.
She's working on a closing this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on closing.
Well, how did things go with that situation?
So I did the addendum like you suggested. I don't think he's very happy about it, but he actually signed it.
Oh, good.
Um.
Happy isn't what we care about when it's somebody else's client that way.
Thanks anymore.
That's right.
But the buyer did such a not so good.
What actually happened too.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So it was.
So can you share what the question was? The question was,
So, yeah,
The buyer has an FHA loan and they're concerned about the appraisal because of chipped paint. So the buyer asked to come over to the seller's house to paint that area. Um,
And this was Tara's listing.
yes.
And so the question is this, let's put it out there. So who else would know? If you have a listing and there's a buyer who wants to come and do a repair prior to the appraisal. And by the way, the reason why a buyer would want to do a repair before the appraisal is because they know it's going to get flagged and they don't want to pay for a reappraisal. Because what happens is if an FHA appraiser comes in and they say all this peeling paint needs to be done, then it has to get done. And then the appraiser has to go back out and see it. Now we're talking another $250. So, and that's the responsibility of the buyer. So in this case, they asked ahead of time, which doesn't happen all the time because sometimes buyers just ask the seller to do it. In this case, the buyer was willing to do it. So let's put that out there. Do you guys know that FHA buyers can do their own repairs? Did we know that? And VA buyers cannot. So rule of thumb, VA does not allow the buyer to do the repairs, but FHA does. So in her case, we wrote an addendum stating that the seller is okay with the buyer coming over to do the paint. And then we added some other stipulations to it, which is what she's saying they weren't happy about. Well, it wasn't them, it was the agent.
Yeah, well,
Did you take the lockbox off?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And actually, the sellers were really happy about that because they're starting to feel very uncomfortable with the whole situation too.
Yes.
So, I told them, you keep the key, keep it in a safe spot.
Yep.
And then whenever
It's
appraiser
done.
comes out or whatever.
Put it
I'll
back
come
in.
out, let them in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sometimes buyers get real strangely possessive about a house that's not theirs yet.
yes.
And then that makes the seller feel intruded upon because it is in fact still their house. And if someone's coming to do something to the exterior of the home, it doesn't give them a free pass to go in and out of the house. So we suggested let's save ourselves the headache because we won't say any names, but the other agent on the other side, who is a difficult agent to deal with, anyone who's dealt with this person would agree. Tara has her own personal issues with this person and I as well.
Yeah.
They just do things by their own rules, I guess. And so it would be a possibility that agent could potentially give the combo out to their client to like go in the house to use the restroom or whatever while they're painting. And that's a big no-no. We don't give out codes to clients ever. That's a license, not just suspension. That's a lose your license effect, not felony, but crime. So we don't want to do that. So I just said, let's save ourselves the headache. The last thing Tara wants is her seller to call and say, I can see the buyer's been in the house. We don't want to do it. So we said, let's take that lockbox off. So we don't have a problem. Well, and then we were worried about what kind of a good job or bad job that these people are going to be doing to the house that they don't own yet.
And it wasn't a good job. I did take pictures in case it comes up later, but I didn't bring it to his attention.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was just gonna be another argument to have.
It would, as long as it's covered, the appraiser doesn't care about the kind of job it is. Because we run into this. So as we enter into the colder months, we should know the problems with peeling paint on the exterior of a home for VA and FHA don't go away. There is paint you can buy at Home Depot that will dry in cold temperatures. So just know that. But also the appraiser doesn't care if the paint is wet for 3 months. If it's January and the paint's not going to dry until April, they don't care. It's more important to get rid of the peeling paint. Mind blowing, but it is.
Yeah.
So, well, good. What else you guys working on?
Just going through, Hot Week's got 2 showings tonight, 2 tomorrow, and one of our really, our main focus buyers and sellers, is that we finally got them to agree to a game plan as to how they're doing this because it's a unique situation where it's 2 households joining into one and they have to buy their other property first.
Okay.
But then once we do that, then we're able to list their 2 houses. So,
Okay.
but finally getting them to agree on a game plan was a huge thing because it's really 3 families.
Is this one we talked about before?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which we're really working hard with them to
Yeah.
get that one taken care of.
Well, good.
That'll be a big one, but And then, just basically syncing our schedules, cause today I just decided to go full-time as a realtor and left my other job.
Oh, well, congratulations. That happens. We love to hear that, especially when your intention is to make this your full-time business. So that's scary, but also exciting at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
well, good. Well, good timing. So all the hard work you guys have been doing from 6, 8 months ago is starting to not accidentally come into place right now.
Oh, yeah,
So,
all of our buyers are kind of getting serious and, just, they're getting prepped to really do it, so.
yeah, it all pops later, guys. The bad news is we work for free, we work for free, we work for free. And if you keep at it, eventually it all comes to you. So that's great. What's going on with you, Jeff?
I'm gonna start an expired plan thing. I
Nice.
picked out a bunch of houses that are actually 3 houses. I picked out a bunch, but I weeded a lot of them out.
Sure.
That were weird, but I wanted to ask you, so obviously I'm still part-time, unfortunately. How would you, they have the expired plans, like in the, like the plan in the drive on how to do it, the first week. So for example, this week, I'm gonna be working my other job on Wednesday and Thursday. Like, how should I handle that if I wanna start hauling an expired like today? Is that a big problem if I can't haul in like 2 days? like
No,
that, or
No, it's fine. Everything doesn't have to be in the same order. It's kind of like the for sale by owner plan that says week 1, week 2, week 3.
Mhm.
Like, you can play with that schedule.
Right.
It's not a rigid thing where, okay, if I don't follow it to the exact way it's intended, that it's not gonna work.
Mhm.
So you just look at those days. I mean, like, it's not a 7-day thing either. Weekends occur, right? So you're gonna modify for that too. So one of the things we learn to do in real estate is pivot, 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 pivot. So that would just be one of those things that you're doing. You're just gonna pivot on those couple of days. It's not gonna change anything. Just don't let it get you off track.
That's the hardest part for me is
Yeah.
like if I don't work or if I don't work my other job for like 3, 4 days in a row, I can kind of get into like I don't know.
A rhythm.
Like, yeah, I have my things I do in the morning, but then I have the whole day off of real estate, working my other job, then I get back.
It's like working out. It's an all or nothing thing for me.
Yes.
If I'm either doing it or I'm not doing it, there's no just partly doing it. So I get it entirely. So just look at those as days off of real estate, but not really off because you're still available if things come up. You're just not working in the business like you would because you're at your other job.
Right.
So just work around it. Or if it makes you feel any better, but at your job, you probably work till dark, huh?
Well, basically, I mean, I'm home 5:36.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then if you need to keep yourself on track, then do that thing in the evening those days, right?
How late is too late to call?
8, I
Eight?
say 8's my cutoff. What were you gonna say?
PM.
Really 9?
Legally 9 PM.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But just throw it out there, man, a lot of my calls, because you're my accountability partner, 5 to 6, people are off work. They're actually home.
Absolutely. And you can always start a conversation by saying, hey, I just want to make sure this is not too late of a time to call you. People can
Right.
appreciate that. You guys call me at 10 o'clock at night, so I don't know what to say. Like, business is happening at 10 at night because you guys are calling me. Yeah.
Is it okay to send a text after? Cause I have done that.
If you're in a conversation, so to me, I think 7 o'clock is the time I wouldn't talk to someone before, and I probably wouldn't text or call someone after 9, unless I was responding.
Gotcha.
If we're in a conversation, then I think we're fine. Or then you can always just go to email. Like, to me, there's nothing off limits with email.
Mhm.
You can email someone whatever time of day you want.
Mhm.
So if it helps you just stay on track, then stay at it, but do it at 6 PM.
Yeah, I might try that, and I'd like to script that expired stuff out with Mike tonight, hopefully,
Okay.
that and I've been working with a couple buyers that like. I met him, showed him a house or two, like everything went great, then they just disappeared, like. Won't answer my calls, nothing, like just random, is that normal or is that not normal?
I mean, Tara's shaking her head. She can tell you.
I think it depends on the person. Like, some people are there and they're pretending like to you that you're their realtor, but they have like 5 different realtors that they're
Yeah.
working with. And it's kind of a place for them to interview you as well as you interviewing them.
Right, but I didn't really understand, cause like before we left, she was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna refer you to all my friends and blah, blah, blah. And like, I was like, what like,
So,
did I do that?
You didn't do anything. Here's what
I'm
happened.
not taking it personally, I'm just like, how can I prevent this from happening again?
It's gonna happen. So here's what happens. We all, I always envision as an analogy, we're all driving in our car. We don't know who the person is in the car next to us that we're honking at or mad at, that we cut off or they cut us off. We don't really look at them as a human being. We look at them as a car. And we don't really look at the situation. So maybe they cut us off because maybe the man's wife is going into labor in the car next to him, or they've got a kid who cut their finger in the back seat. And the reason that they cut you off wasn't because they were trying to race you, was just because something emergency is happening and we don't think about that. And then we're a jerk honking at them. You know what I mean? Imagine that my kid's bleeding in the back seat and some idiot's honking at me because I needed to get over. Right? So like we have to think of it like we don't, and my point of saying that is this, we don't know what's going on in the other car. We don't know what's going on in our clients' lives. We're not their best friend. We don't know. They don't have to confide in us. They don't have to tell us, and we just don't know. So supposing, and again, looking at DISC, I'm a high D. And so if I go car shopping and I like one, and well, it's probably not true. I'm an impulse buyer, so I probably would have bought it already. So that's not a good example. I bought 2 cars getting an oil change, so that's a bad example. But nonetheless, let's pretend that's not the case. My personality is just because you're calling me as a salesperson wanting to follow up because I test drove the car and I loved it. I talked about banking. We went over all this stuff, but I'm busy with other things and I just haven't made my final decision about it yet. And I'll get back to you when I've decided to. So I think more than not, that's what happens with buyers is I didn't find what I was looking for. Yes, I'm still looking, but there's nothing urgent right now. And yes, Jeff keeps reaching out, but I will respond when I need something. So then what you need to do in your follow-up is create something that causes them to call you back. And it's not, I'm checking in again. It is this, hey, I know we went and talked in about a week, but there's this great house that just came on the market. I'm available this week. Just wanted to see what your availability is. I'm going to go ahead and email it to you, even though it's already in their auto email, perhaps. And then they call you not because they want to talk to you, but because the hook is the house, right? So if someone says to me, hey, that car that you loved so much 2 weeks ago, hey, you should know that we just reduced the price on it or something, or interest rates just dropped and, you know, your payment, which I told you was going to be $1,200 is now going to be $800 or something like that. That might be the hook. So but it's always going to happen. I hate, that's the bad news.
They just give up or what?
No, never good.
Let's talk through these. How do you handle?
So they're in the database and they're getting followed up that way, but they're also getting the auto emails from the MLS or wherever, however you have them set up to get emails. And then I'm just following up and following up. And at some point, depending on how many follow-ups, I might say, hey, it's been 3 months and I haven't heard from you. I just wanted to say, I'm going to stop your search. If that's not okay, just shoot me a text. Also this, try all sources of communication. If you're calling someone who can't answer the phone because they're at a job that they can't answer the phone, try texting them. If they don't respond to text or call, try emailing them. So I'm always trying to figure out, like maybe they just didn't respond because I wasn't talking to them in their preferred manner of communication. Right? So a lot of times you guys call me and I don't answer, but I text you real quick and say I'm in an appointment, I can text. So that happens a lot. So best communication with me is probably going to be a text, and then we can even set up a call if it needs to be a call, but I can answer quick in a text depending on what I'm doing. So finding out their communication vibe, but also then the takeaway. The takeaway is this, hey, I haven't noticed you on the website, and hey, you haven't responded. So I just wanted to make sure that you wanted to continue to get the search, or I should shut it off. That's called the takeaway tactic. The second you start taking something away, it's, whoa, wait a minute. No, I do still want to get those. And then the answer is this, well, you wouldn't know, but I just lost my job, or getting a divorce now suddenly, or something happened, somebody's sick, or all the things that go on in people's lives that they don't really want to tell their agent could be a reason why they're not responding, or it could be they cheated on you and they bought a house with somebody else. Like, that is the truth. So, but I don't give up. I'm a dig my claws in kind of person. And until someone says, stop, I'm probably not.
Okay.
Because those people come back sometimes. Or if they are talking to other agents and they go make an offer and the deal falls through on it, now they're mad at that person. And then now they're like, he wasn't so bad after all. And it wasn't that they talked to someone else because you did something wrong. It's because they think agents have all different information. You're going to tell me something different than you're going to tell me, then something different you're going to tell me. All not true. We all have the same information. The MLS still has the same info. And it's old fashioned thinking to think that we all have different listings to send to somebody, right? So, yeah, just keep at it. You never know. And what can it hurt? You're not spending a ton of time.
No, not really. I'll do that.
Awesome. And let me know if you need anything with the expireds too. So I'm happy to hear you're launching that because we had a class last week. All right. Janice, tell us what's going on in your group there.
Good morning, or
Good
yeah,
morning.
good morning. So for me personally, I had a listing go live over, well, the end of last week. Held a couple of open houses. Jaden, who's a new agent here, held one open for me yesterday, which was very successful.
Nice.
I am working on putting another house on the market this week in Cleveland Heights. And I really don't know what else right now. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. Being gone for a week totally like throws you off center.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get back on center.
Nice.
So that's what I have going on. And then I have Alex and Sean here. So I'll let Alex go.
Okay, so tonight I have an open house at my listing in Chagrin Falls. Anyone who can come who wants to come, I'd love some feedback. And then someone's coming out and shooting videos of the property for me tonight as well. And we also have another showing for that house already today. And then I'm working with a buyer. They ended up now are ready to get their pre-approval because they lost out on their dream property. That was like, it really is like a once in a few years property out in Aurora. And so yeah, they're gonna get pre-approved now. And then I reached out to someone from a previous open house like a few weeks ago, just because they did say they had an agent, but I was like, I'll just follow up because Janice said like still follow up. And they said they would prefer to go with me, especially on the sale side. So that'll be probably 6 months to a year for them. And then I'm following up with for sale by owners and trying to get a couple other buyers pre-approved.
Very good. Lots of good stuff cooking.
Yeah. And she actually got the sale by. They came to her because of the changes of a certain brokerage and not being listed all over.
Oh.
They sent her that text like, this is why we're coming to you, because we want to make sure that our property is listed everywhere.
Yeah.
Does everyone know that? Does everyone know what she's talking about? Go ahead, Janice, tell us about it.
So
She brought it up.
I know, since I brought it up. So a certain brokerage,
You can say who, it's okay. There's nothing prohibiting us. Yeah.
It's Howard Hanna. So they decided to make a change and move from the IDX that we're all under with the MLS, which allows our listings to be showcased on everybody's individual websites and other websites throughout. So I think we broadcast to over like 500 websites. So they're going to a VOW system, which allows their information not to be shared with our individual websites that we share with our clients, which limits the reach for a potential listing. And so they're going to keep all their listings in-house. Pretty much they'll put them on the MLS, but they won't show on our websites, but they'll show on the Howard Hanna's website, so that because the reasoning behind this is they said that when we share them on our websites, it looks like we're the listing agent and it's not them, which is the same for how our listings are going to show on their website.
And how we've done it for 20 years. So it just doesn't make sense. Well, it does make sense.
It's always been done.
They want more buyers for their own listings. So we all do, but we're all part of the multiple listing service. There's a reason it's called multiple listing service. Back in the dark ages, which I'm sad to say I was part of, there was no multiple listing service. So we didn't share our listings with other brokerages. We had binders with photocopies of the information, and you would have to literally make an appointment to hop brokerages to share listings with other brokerages because there was no internet back in the dark ages. So what they're doing is, in any case, would it ever be a good idea to go backwards and do things like we did over 20 years ago? Like, I can't think of a scenario where that's a good idea, real estate or personal, that would ever be good. So what they're actually doing is they're going to lose listings and they're going to eventually hurt themselves, because what seller, when they get wind of that, wants their house listing with the brokerage that doesn't share their listings everywhere they can? Makes no sense. So yeah, they won't be doing it for long, but it's whatever. But good for you, Alex. That's great.
So that was their feedback. So I said, that's great.
Love that. All right, Sean, tell us what's happening with you.
Good morning, everybody. This weekend, thanks. This weekend I had 2 opens in Shaker Heights. So the first one was affected by the crazy weather. I had one person through, which was not so good, but that was all right, understandable. The second one was also in Shaker, and we had 13 groups come through and about 29 people.
Wow.
So that house was it was just listed. I was telling the group here, there were some really interested buyers, and then there were some looky-loos, obviously, just coming around. But there were several of the interested buyers who were not represented by an agent. So I'm following up on their questions for them this morning when we're done. And I was saying that one of the people that were there was looking, but his wife was like basically about ready to give birth. So he's not represented. So I don't think they're going to be moving into this house, anytime in the future. But I was saying to the team here was he's definitely a potential client looking to grow into a bigger home. So in the next week and a half or so, I'm going to drop off some morning bagels for them, just congratulating them on their new son coming into the world. We had a little connection, and then hopefully turn them into a client and start looking for homes for them. Hopefully within 3 to 6 months, find something.
I love that. And I love that outlook, because we have to sell houses today and in 3 months and in 6 months.
Right.
That is true.
And then this week I am working my farm. So the first time that I'm going to be door knocking in my career here. I'll be out and about. I've mapped out the different streets that'll be going on different days, but I have a 4 touch point strategy for that farm area in the next 4 months. And so it includes mailings and personal visits as well.
And so I love that. Let me stop and say that is awesome. We should not just be choosing an area and getting a plan together to just go, but not have a system built around it. Meaning knowing where you're going, knowing what you're going to bring or say or do, and then mail as a follow-up. Because if you just keep going and going, years ago, when I first started coaching, there was someone in the coaching program who would do that. And so I've always said, I would use his example, would never tell who he is. He's still a very successful agent here, but he wasn't successful at farming. And the reason why is he would just go out any day, anytime, randomly going to neighborhoods and streets. He wasn't keeping track of where he was going. He doesn't know who he talked to. He's passing out stuff to whoever would talk to him, which is great, total go-getter. But if you don't have a plan and you didn't know where you went, you don't know what streets you were on, and you don't remember who you talked to because you gave them your card. How many people get a call and they said, I called you because of your business card? That doesn't happen very often. And so if you don't have a way of following back up with a second touch because you don't know who, it's not that it's not worth it, but you just have to have a plan. Because he did it, like he would even go on Thanksgiving morning. I'm like, stop it. Stop it right now. I know you think that shows that you're working hard, but I can tell you, if you came to my door on Thanksgiving morning wanting to discuss real estate, might let my dog bark at you, So great job of putting a plan together and then pulling the trigger. So I can't wait to hear how it goes.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. How about you, Sarah? Who you got there at Elevate?
I have Sammy and Kelly here with me. I think everyone else is online on Zoom. It was pretty quiet weekend. I just showed houses. I had no open houses. I have 4 houses closing this week.
Nice.
So, and I gotta pick up on reaching out my touches and everything. And we have a few classes here. We have the open house class being hosted here tomorrow. Yeah, just kind of get back in the swing of things. I kind of took off last week, so I just got to get back into the swing of things.
So can you just share a little bit about where the 4 closings came from? Where did those leads come from?
One was from my last team I was on, so that was fun. I
Okay.
still kept them. The other one was a past client referral. The other one was a lender referral. And the other one was a social media referral.
Nice.
Mhm.
So you can see she's having 4 closing this week, and it sounds like 3 of them at least came from some type of referral business. And I can tell you, Sarah does a really, really good job of reaching out to her database on a very regular basis with mailings and calendars and touches and phone calls and social media posts constantly. So
I'm
that
going
would
to a
get it.
I'm going to a birthday party this weekend actually for clients that moved from California to Port Clinton. My first time meeting them, I never met them. It was only FaceTime, and I'm just gonna meet their
Oh.
twins and everything because they want me to meet their whole family.
Very nice. I love that. So making relationships, really important. Awesome job. Kelly, tell us what's happening with you.
Hi, oh, sorry, I almost dropped my water bottle.
Okay.
Um, I had one open house this weekend, and out of that, I may have 2 potential buyers. We'll see how that works out. I've already reached out to them yesterday. And last week, my Parma nutty buyer she left me, so I
Well,
was
that
okay
might be
with
a
that. Right.
Yeah.
But I have another buyer from a referral. And then last week I reached out to a whole bunch of builders in the area. And asked them, if they have a preferred listing agent that they work with, and if not, how can I get into there? So I reached out to a lot of the builders. I got a lot of feedback that they already have some listing agent, that they exclusively work with, but at least I'm trying to get out there.
Yep.
And then I reached out to a handful of for sale by owners, and I have 2. One, he said that I can reach out to him like every 2 weeks, but they're really not in a hurry to sell the house because they're building, so they're not really advertising it. Because I asked them, there's no for sale sign in the front yard, but it's on Zillow. But and it's really overpriced. But yeah. But they said that they're just not advertising it, because I asked if I could do an open house or anything like that, and they're like, not yet, because our house isn't built yet. We kind of are not pressuring to move. So I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna keep reaching out to him.
Time for no reason. It's okay. We need those kind of people, because eventually I just say learn their lesson, but they learn the lesson that with no marketing and being overpriced, the house isn't gonna sell.
Right, it's just sitting there at the moment.
Makes no sense, but yeah. But good,
Yeah,
that's good.
so right, and a couple other for sale by owners, they just didn't answer their phone or text or anything, so I ended up just mailing out some postcards to them.
Okay, great.
And really, that's it.
Awesome. That's
Right.
still good.
Here's Sammy.
Hi, Sammy.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just came off of being sick all last week.
Oh
So I was
no.
a little, yeah, it wasn't COVID, so as long as it's not that, I don't care. But I am off a little bit. I didn't do any open houses this weekend because I just started feeling good again. But I do have 2 scheduled for this weekend already. To put myself back in the groove. I got a referral from a family member that I'm gonna be working with this week. Where they were overseas, like on vacation, and now they just recently got divorced, so they're looking to move now. So I was like, okay, perfect. And then I did my open house that I did 2 weeks ago. I had the the buyer reached out to me and was like, hey, we're looking to list our home in, where was that? Fairlawn. And they're looking to purchase in Rocky River. So that is coming up in September. He's not ready to do it right now. So, yeah. And then what else? I am working with my investor this week. He's looking for multi-units, and that's driving me crazy because he has a very strict criteria. So he's driving me a little bit crazy. And there's not a lot on the market right now. So
Yeah.
it's a little difficult, but he's trying to purchase in abundance. So there are 3 single families that he's trying to buy off of me for investment properties, but he's in New Jersey right now. So he
Can I
basically
give
wants me to do
you a
all
suggestion
the,
about multifamilies? So if there's a particular location and price range, here's a really good mailing to send to that kind of like, hey, listen, guys, we don't just have to farm neighborhoods. We can farm a target market for our client. So you could select some multifamilies in an area and price range if they were for sale that he'd be interested in, and farm them. Go door knocking, send mailings, send postcards, and get them in a system. And here's the hook. Did you know, Mr. Investor of this multifamily, that this was the best time to sell? Maybe they bought that duplex 25 years ago, and now it's worth 5 times the amount that they paid for it. And now is a good time to cash out. And then that could get you a listing and also could potentially get you a sale for your investor. But also, more importantly, I would let your investor know you're doing that for them, because that causes stickiness for them to you, that you're actually going outside of the box to try to find them properties too.
right.
That's just an
Yeah,
idea.
so I will definitely work on that then for sure. So it's a little bit later this week just because I'm getting back into the groove of
Yeah.
everything, but I still have a bunch going on. So
Well, good. And good thing you've done so many open houses this month for the contest, because you probably could afford to not done one this weekend.
yeah, we were just talking about it. So
Yeah.
I was flipping out a little bit, but I was like, I think it's because I did 4 one weekend. So I think
I know.
that like locked in my spot.
Yes, I think it did.
You know,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Like I
So
said, I love when the agents at Elevate say, I didn't have a very good week. I only did 2 open houses and 15 showings. And you're like, okay, great. That's a big thing to live up to. That I love that your mindset is, I could have done more, which is fabulous. I love it.
for sure. Well, listen, if I wasn't dual career, I would be doing 6 open houses somehow on the weekend. So
Hey, that's awesome. I love it.
well, that's it
Great.
for me. So thank you.
Right. We've got about 10 minutes, so I'm just gonna kind of rotate through. Ethan, you're at the top of my screen, so I'm gonna let you tell us what you've got working on this week. And again, I apologize to anyone I don't get to, because I really want us to do dot for a solid 30.
Yeah, so I had the open house on Thursday. That didn't go so well, but it was a cool house. And then my for sale by owner sold for 10,000 less, so that was kind of not fun.
You mean sold to
she
someone
sold,
before you
yeah,
listed? Yeah.
she sold with another Howard Hanna agent. Or not sold, but they had the buyer.
You had a buyer.
But it was
Yeah.
her 4th for sale by owner, so that was kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, this week I'm gonna be working with for sale by owners, and just continue up my social media, and just keep playing the numbers game.
I love it. And I love that you know that it's a numbers game, because it absolutely is.
So
And if you're tracking well, if you're doing your own tracking, you're going to know your numbers. Your numbers might be different than somebody else's. And we talked about this in the expired class last week, and using the CGI calculator that you have in your command. The CGI calculator is how many calls do I need to make to get how many appointments? How many appointments do I need to go on to get how many sales? And that way, when you know those numbers, you can then increase your transactions for the following year based on that. So basically, if I had to make 500 phone calls this quarter to get 5 appointments to sell 1 house, then I know how much work I need to do to sell 10 houses, right? And those aren't real numbers. I'm just throwing that out there. Don't be like, I have to make 5,000 phone calls to get 3 appointments. No, but just tracking, that's a really good idea. So I love that you know that it's numbers game. Fabulous. All right, Germany, tell us what's going on out there in Columbus.
So I'm still under contingency right now with my buyer. I just got the first appraisal back with some repairs that need done, so I'm writing that over to send to them. I reached out to a for sale by owner. She told me I can call her on Wednesday to review the property. And then I got a buyer lead yesterday. She is not looking to buy for 6 to 12 months, but I'm just going to have a consultation with her on Tuesday and see where she's at, like with everything, credit score wise, and to get her on a plan to help her be successful in buying her first property. And I'm focusing on, I've decided that I'm focusing on for sale by owners as my niche of business, of how I want to generate business.
That's your one thing. I love it. Great job. All right, Maria, what's happening with you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am I need to follow up with guests from this weekend's open house. I need to follow up we're trying to get a listing. We're under contract and we're supposed to be scheduled to close this Thursday. But still waiting on documentation from the listing agent. It's been quite a while, so trying to work on that just to make it happen. I want to create a Facebook page so that this weekend I wanted to boost my open house ad. How you mentioned in the past, boosting, and I was told you need to have a business page. So
yeah,
I was trying to avoid that, but I guess I'm just gonna have to go ahead and create that. And that's about it. I want to call some expired listings, and I wanted to ask your opinion. So the expired listings that I found are near where I live. And after practicing the script, after I spoke to you last week a few times, I just couldn't get myself to call. Would you recommend doing like a door knocking for expired listings?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, if you're more comfortable going to the door than calling, by all means, whatever works for you.
Okay.
Again, coming from a place of service is what's important, though, that they understand that you're not trying to take something from them, that you're trying to provide a service. So I'm just here trying to help you and find out, why do you think your house didn't sell, and are you still interested in selling? I mean, most people that expired do still want to sell their house. Like, they didn't just give it a shot. They usually have a need. And like, you don't just list for the fun of it, I guess is what I'm saying. Right. So making it about them and having a list of questions versus then not tell them what you're going to do. You do, but asking questions to generate conversation is much more, you're much more likely to get someone to talk to you than just, hey, will you give me 5 minutes to talk to you about what I'm going to do?
Okay. And I finally, before our meeting, got my forewarn set up. That way I don't have to reach out for others to help me get the phone numbers, and I can continue to get more contact for expired listings. That's pretty much it.
And then I just want to share too a unique, I won't launch in today because we don't have enough time to your story about your client, but we'll talk about the bad client another time. But I do want to share the story about the red pickup truck, which was so cracking me up yesterday when you were sending me pictures. So go ahead and tell everybody what the seller said where the property line was at.
So I pretty much thought the property line ended where there's a fence attached to the side of his house, but he's telling me, no, the lot next door belongs to him as well. And I said, really? So where exactly does it end? He said, where that pickup truck is. And I said, and how is that? He said, I've been maintaining it for over 20 years. So adverse possession, it's my lot. Okay, I'll speak to your agent about that.
Yeah. So like, because there's an abandoned house next to where this house is at, sure, there is such a thing. If you've had something on someone's property for so many years, that you absolutely can acquire it. But that doesn't mean that the deed, or that the county recorder's office actually has it as you as an owner. So that means that if that's even all true, which we wouldn't take the seller's word for it, that he's still using the property is what's allowed. But the question is can you sell and market it and transfer it to somebody else? That's murky to me. So the only way I would pursue that situation would be to have someone come out and survey and actually show in fact that that seller now also owns the property next to them because it's on an abandoned piece of property that he's had this truck sitting on for 20 years, which is just funny. My lot goes to the abandoned trunk that, by the way, is not on my parcel of property. We never want to list a property without proper paperwork like that. And like, listen, he could be lying. I mean, I saw the truck. It's old and definitely been sitting there a while, but like, we can't, and I wouldn't even take the listing agent's word for it either. I want to see some concrete proof that that property now belongs to you and that you can transfer it. Even if he did acquire the property, if he never went through having it resurveyed and actually put in his name so that it's county record, it's not going to convey with the title. It's not.
That's exactly what I figured. That was my concern because the listing agent told me, yes, the lot does belong to him. And my next question was, is there any documentation? And I haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah, probably not. So be careful that the sellers aren't always, it's not that they're lying, it's what they believe to be true, which is something entirely different than possibly what the truth of it is.
Thank you.
I've got like 1 more minute. If anyone on, I can't go in order, has something in particular that they want to share that they've got working on this week, I'll let you have the floor. We've got about another minute before I'm going to jump into dotloop. So please feel free to unmute and jump in.
I do have a question.
Yep.
Can you explain to me a sheriff sale?
So a sheriff sale is not the same as an auction. An auction is a person who owns a property and they want to auction it off. So they have some kind of an online auction or an actual auction where auctioneers come out and do that. A sheriff sale happens after a property is foreclosed on.
Okay.
So the bank's taken away the property, and sometimes though that particular bank sends a property to sheriff sale before listing it with an agent would be the order. So it's going to go to sheriff sale. Sometimes they're, you can recognize them because they're marketed and advertised and people go to them. Sometimes, and most of the time, I'll be honest, it happens and no one even know it happened.
Okay.
And then it doesn't sell at sheriff sale because the bank does have the right to say, I have a certain number I have to get. And if we don't get that, I'm not going to sell it at sheriff sale. And then they're usually working with an agent. So most banks are working with agents. So here's another group of people that you guys can market to: banks. There's someone who deals in foreclosures that can work with agents. So a lot of times they already have 2 or 3 agents that they're working with. If you want to go down that path, it's a whole different thing working with foreclosed properties. Lots of little details, that you need to be aware of. But the sheriff's sale, again, they might not pay a commission. They might pay a commission. If your client wants to go to one, I would look into who's advertising it and can you register your client and are they in fact paying a commission? And they very well may not be.
Okay.
I know, but there's buyers out there that think when houses are foreclosed on, the banks are just passing them out. Everybody gets a house, everybody gets to get one, like you can pay $10 and you can walk away, and that's just not the case. If the person owes a certain amount, the bank wants to at least get that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. If I didn't get to you, I'm so sorry, but I really want to spend this time going over dotloop today. So let me log on here. Find you. Where's my dot? All right. Please jump in with any questions. I'm just kind of going to roll through like a beginner dotloop. And then depending on time, we can talk more about it as we move forward with some tips. So here's your dot loop, and you log in and you can have a different view. Some people like a different view. I like this grid view, and I have a ton of loops because I've been in the business for a long time, and you guys send me your loops. There's no amount of loops that you can have. So you can test away and you're never going to run on a loop. So we're just going to create a new loop. I'll also say this. If you're writing an offer on a property, you need to really learn how to start your loop through command. And that's something that Lynn's going to show you in one of your appointments. So you should really, to make your life easier later, go into command, add your contact in command, create your opportunity in command for that contact. And when you do that, you can go to start transaction or go to transaction or whatever that link says, and it really takes you right out of command and puts you right into dot loop. The reason that you want to do that is because that way, if that property goes under contract, you've already got it connected to command. But it's okay. I'll be honest, I don't practice what I preach. If I'm in a hurry writing an offer, I'm going to dot loop and I'm writing the offer because I know how to copy the documents into the loop later that I create from command, and I'm okay to do that. So if you're comfortable with dot loop and you want to just make a copy of your documents later, by all means, you can do it that way too. Sometimes, especially if you're not really comfortable in command and you've got a buyer that wants to write an offer, the last thing that you want to do is mess around with the command and try to figure out how to start the loop that way if you're in a hurry and it's crunch time. So that's up to you. Either way, it has to go and be connected later. All right. So across the top, there's some things here, your loops, people. I don't really ever use anything. I don't really use reporting. I don't do my tasks in command, but you certainly can. But I do want to click on templates real quick. So a bunch of stuff in templates. In agents with Living and Elevate, we all have dot loop and it all looks the same. Your documents just look different than ours. I don't have access to, just because of I'm not in that brokerage. I only have access to our dot loop for Legacy, and I don't have one for your guys. So Janice and Sarah do. So as you guys are going through, I'm not trying to turn this into a contracts class. So as I go through some of these documents, I'm saying that because these documents are going to look a little different than the documents from Living and Elevate. In any case, I have created something in Legacy's dot loop, which I know Sarah and Janice have been working on getting into dot loop for Living and Elevate. And it says his PC buyer sample and PC seller sample. And in here, I went ahead and filled out all the appropriate documents that you would need to write an offer. And I'll just open this one here, and I did the same thing for a seller so you can see. So in here, I would not pull these over and add them to your loop, because then you're going to have them get in the way of your own documents. I've had people try to do this. I know, because I proof your guys' offer. They tried to add text boxes over my numbers and actually use these documents, because then they add text that don't spend the time doing that. That makes no sense. You can use a plain document. But nonetheless, I filled out an entire packet of buyer documents and an entire packet of listing documents in a fake situation with side notes. So if we weren't at the fabulous company that we are of training that we have available, and you needed to write an offer at 10 o'clock at night and there was no one to help you, you have this resource. You should be able to read through this and be able to put together an offer, is what I'm getting at. Do I expect you to do that without help? I absolutely do not, but I just want to show that to you guys so you see that it's there. All right. Also in templates, there's miscellaneous documents, and then you can list documents and sale documents that are from the office. I'm not 100% sure at Living and Elevate, but I can tell you at Legacy, somebody on admin needs to go in and clean this up, because you guys do not need all of these documents to write an offer. I assure you. You see all this stuff in here? So a lot of you will pull every single one of these into your loop, and then you're wondering why it's so confusing, because you just made it really hard for yourself.
Hello. Hi.
Again, I don't know why we have a seller's net sheet in the buyer packet. That needs to go. if you're not selling vacant land, do you need a vacant land purchase agreement? No. Do you need addendum right now? No. Do you need a removal of contingencies right now? No. And you also don't need a purchase agreement, large print and a regular print. So there's a lot of things in here that are just kind of like, it's like a menu. We only need to take out the things that we actually need, which I have here. So that's your guide to know what you're going to need. In addition to these documents, you're going to need the pre-approval letter from your buyer or a proof of funds from your buyer that they're going to email it to you, and I'll show you how you get that into your loop. And you're going to have to download the disclosures from the MLS and then get those in as well. Questions about that? Same goes for a listing. It's the listing paperwork's here. Here's all the documents that you need. You don't need everything that's in that template. You're just going to pull these ones over. All right, back to my loops. All right, so now I'm going to create a loop. I like to use my own loop. I don't like to merge loops. People do. It's okay. There's no right or wrong about it. Merging a loop would be I'm writing an offer on somebody else's listing and they're using .loop, and it gives you the option to merge the loop so that you just show up as a file within their loop. I don't prefer to do it that way. You guys can totally do that way. As a listing agent, I love it when agents merge, of course, so I'm going to be totally a hypocrite. I love the people to merge their loop with mine because then it's just a folder in my already ready loop. It just starts to get confusing because some people merge, some people don't. I don't when it's a buyer. I also want to work out of my loop. So let me also explain this because I know this is where confusion starts to happen, especially when you're new and you've written an offer on somebody's listing. You send them the documents in .loop, and then they share the documents back with you as their counter offer, and they sent it from their loop. And now you have two loops with the same address. So I like to look at .loop like a file cabinet. So .loop is a file cabinet. And in that file cabinet, there's a drawer. And within there are those green hanging folders. And I look at the green hanging folders as your loops. Within the green hanging folders, there's also those manila folders. Those are the folders I'll show you within your loop. And then in the manila folder are documents, which are your documents within the folder within your loop. That's exactly how the design of .loop. I know because when .loop became .loop, they came to the brokerage I was at for a month and taught me how to use .loop. So lucky for me, I got to learn straight from .loop when they first created the company. And that's exactly how it was explained to me. It's a file cabinet. In any case, moving on. So you're going to create your loop. I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street. And so you see how that pops up here. This is how you would merge a loop with somebody else, which obviously is not in our state. So obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm going to bypass and keep typing and say Canton, Ohio, 44788. So it's still trying to get me to merge, but I'm going to bypass that by just hitting enter, enter, enter. And now view my loop. All right, so I've got my address. The transaction type right now is a purchase, and it's a pre-offer. And that's just for filtering purposes only. I like to keep things organized, so I don't like my folders. So remember when I said file cabinet, this whole thing is your green hanging folder, and this folder is those manila folders. I don't like it to say the word folder. I like to rename it, and I'm going to say it's called buyer docs or offer, whatever you want to say. So now it says that. Then within this folder, I'm going to add some documents. So now I'm going to go over here. By the way, in .loop and a lot of sites, the 3 little gray dots means a lot. People miss it all the time, but if you click on it, you can see it does a few different things. Renaming is one of them. Add document. So there's 3 ways you can add documents into .loop. One is by email, one is by browsing to your computer, and one is to go into templates. So let me just browse to a document. If I hit browse, it's going to take me into my downloads. As long as I have a PDF here. By the way, it cannot be a JPEG. It has to be a PDF. So let me just see if this pulls over. I'm selecting my property disclosure. Let's just pretend. And I'm going to open it up. And there it is. It is not a property disclosure. It's obviously expired listing paperwork. So that came in. Do you see how quickly that came into my loop from browse? So I'm going to archive that because I want it to get out of our way. Another way to add document is from email. So you click it and then you have to click this copy to clipboard. And now you know it did because it turned green. And then you can minimize this, go to your email, and then paste that link in a document that's been emailed to you, which would probably be like the property disclosure from an agent if it's not online, or the pre-approval letter. And then you forward it in, and then it also shows up in here. But what you're going to probably do for an offer is do it from templates. By the way, down at the bottom in templates, I should have showed you when I was there. There's something called, let me see. Just go there real quick. I meant to do this. Let me go in templates real quick. Something called clauses. Right here. And I type up all the different things that I would normally type a bunch of times. So this way I only have to start typing Keller Williams and then automatically it pops up. You can also create your own folders. So instead of having to leaf through all of the documents within the templates that the company puts in place for you, you can create your own right here, new folder. So that's what I have here, miscellaneous. My listing documents that I'm going to use, I put in my own folder. My own buyer documents are in here. So all these up top are my own folders that I've created, and I went into the templates the office provides and I copy them into my own folder. This way I don't have to go through all those menu items of documents that you might not need. Sorry, that's not necessarily a beginner thing. So for those of you who didn't know that, you're welcome. For those of you who are beginners, that might sound like a different language to you, and I apologize. But that's just an easy, quick way of getting documents in your loop that you don't have to go through all that stuff again. So let me go back to that loop. All right. So now I'm going to pull documents, as I said, from my folder, buyer docs, and now I know I can select all because it's only the things I need. But if I don't want something, like let's just say my buyer is not going to do a home warranty and I want the home warranty waiver, I don't need the home warranty then. Right now, I don't need the escrow instructions, only if I go under a contract. Copy. So there could be some other documents that you need, but just because we want this to be a .loop class and not a contracts class, we're just going to roll with it like this. So here's my documents. I would have pulled in the pre-approval proof of funds. I would have pulled in the RPD and lead-based paint off of supplements. So again, we have a MLS class coming up, but in the MLS, when you're in the listing, there's something called supplements. The supplements is where you find the disclosures. So you just download those to your computer, and then that's why you're going to browse to them here. And then they come in. You will have to refresh the page because I've had someone on the phone going, but it didn't come. You have to refresh the page and then it appears. All right. The next thing I do, because I want the documents to autofill, is I want to add my people. Let me mention this. You only have one chance to autofill the documents. So if you hover and open one of these documents just by itself, that's the only one that's going to autofill. I want it to autofill all the documents that it can possibly autofill. Will it autofill your flat PDF, which is your property disclosure? No. It's only going to autofill .loop documents. Well, unfortunately, there's some that need to be taken care of, like the home warranty waiver that the office has not autofilled. And I think that just because it depends on whether you're working with the buyer or the seller and it auto fills incorrectly. It doesn't, the system doesn't know if this is a buyer document or a seller loop, I mean, so that's partly why. Nonetheless, with the ABA, if you're a partner with your title company, you're going to use the partner title company ABA. If you are not, then you're going to use the non-partner ABA. So pull in all your documents and then you're going to add people. So don't open anything yet until you start adding people. So I'm just gonna add a couple of, for whoever comes up first. So that, let's just say that's my buyer number 1. Buyer, add person. I'm not adding phone number. I'm not adding anything else. Add person. By the way, you have to type their name, and it is, as you can see here in gray, full name. It will not let you bypass a last name. If they own an LLC, then the name is, I don't know, the Smith Family Corporation LLC. That's the name then. If it's an estate, it's the Smith Family Estate, John Smith Executor. That's the name. If you need to make sure that the way the property is being bought or sold in the right ownership, and I have a form in the drive that says, if it's an estate, this is how it should be signed. If it's a trust, this is how it should be signed, and so on. But that's not going to be their name. It's going to be the name of their business or so on. And then their email address. Let me also tell you this. If they're in here, then they'll come up. I'm just going to pick people. Dotloop is really sensitive about this one thing. So please remember this. If I add a space here, it's not going to send it to them because it's recognizing their email as another character and it won't be correct. It's so touchy about that. It's stupid. But I've realized when people have said to me, I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. And I'm like, but it says it's sent. It's because it recognized their email with another character after that. And I really wish they would fix that glitch, but I think it's a glitch. Maybe it's intentional. I don't know. And you have to put a role. So again, we're going to say buyer. Here is also where I'm going to add the listing agent too. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a listing agent. So I'm looking at you, Tara. I'm going to say you're the listing agent, and there you are. And then I'm going to call you the listing agent. I might add the lender at this time as well, because I might have to send the documents to the lender if we get this deal together. So I'm going to add whoever I think needs to be added. Bless you. And remember when I said you only have one chance to autofill? You can also, I'm really funny about the order of my documents too. So I'm not going to reorder these until I open them, because then it could glitch. So I'm actually going to do it, but be very careful. This is how you can move the documents. You hover, click, and drag. You see how it says replace? You don't want to replace. You just want to drop it in place. I like the purchase agreement, agency disclosure, and ABA, and then my property disclosures and all of those things next. And then I put the pre-approval usually at the top. These documents at the bottom, these don't need to go to the listing agent. Only the documents pertaining to the sale need to go to the listing agent. So I put those at the bottom. All right. So now I'm going to click this, which is going to check box all of them. And when I do that, I'm going to hit open. Now it's going to ask me, do I want to autofill? And I do. So it's going to put my 2 buyers, but sometimes it doesn't pull up the address. So I got to type it in here. Here. I think I said name. So now I only have to type it once. I don't fill out all this other stuff. Come to the bottom, autofill. And now wherever it's highlighted yellow, it's going to plug in the address. So I don't have to type it 100 times. It's also already plugged in my client's name in the proper places. So then you're just going to start filling information out. So for those of you who've not written an offer yet, one of the things that you need to do is add me as a person with my Yahoo email. It's in the instructions, by the way. I have in the drive instructions on how to do this. And in there it says, I think it's in the A to Z working with buyers file. And it goes into exactly every step that you need to take. And in there it says add Gina Ferrer with GS Ferrer at Yahoo email and check the box that says add to my team. And by doing that, I get an invite. That doesn't mean though that you guys don't text me and say, hey, I've sent you a loop. I get hundreds of loops a week. So I don't necessarily open them if you guys don't say I need your help with it. Anyway, you start filling out your paperwork as much as you possibly can, and then let me know when it's ready for me to review, or Janice or Sarah at the other market centers. So just start typing, you know, whatever in your places, you know, fill out your paperwork. Everything that's here is already going to be able to be checked or clicked. I'm not going to go through and, you know, fill out paperwork because this is a .lib class. But you can see my phone number is trying to come up because I typed the number because that was in clauses. Check all your boxes for all this stuff. Choose your closing date. Let me also mention this. If loan commitments in 30 days, which by the way, people that put 5 days, you can't get loan commitment in 5 days. It's 30 usually, unless the lender tells you otherwise. Then your close date is probably going to be 30 days later than that here. And then add 3 days. Because you need to have the 72-hour period for them to be able to review their settlement statement. So your close date should be a few days after your loan approval date. That's a contract thing. Also, here's another area that I see people miss. If this says buyer, and it says can be signed by either buyer, and then you have an overzealous husband who clicks both places, there's no place for the other buyer to sign. So that's why I'm always going to tell you, click it and go up here to assign and then assign it. So it should say that buyer's initial and this buyer's initial. That's what it should read. Not buyer. You don't have to assign the fields for the listing agent to assign to their seller. They'll do that themselves. Again, filling all of this out. And again, assign the field. Click. Assign. Click. Assign. But let's just pretend that there's one buyer for a second. Do I need this to be empty? It draws attention to that there was 2 buyers, but only 1 signed. So again, I'm being super picky. But if I'm a listing agent and a buyer's agent sends me an offer and I'm in multiple offers and I only see 1 person sign, and then there's this random initial here that says buyer, I'm going to think the other spouse didn't sign. So how you get rid of it, because you also don't need a duplicate signature because your client's going to sign it twice then. And it implies there's 2 buyers. Is it legally okay? Yes. I'm just being really picky pants over here. Click it, and then you can click that X and it goes away. So that's just a simple little thing to keep it clean. Do not forget line 114. Everybody does. Assign it also to your buyers. Checking any boxes and so on. So let me just go down. Again, I don't want to turn this into a contracts class, but you should put the seller's name where it says seller's name. You don't need to assign the fields, but if the agent accepts your offer, so you submit an offer and they accept it, and then the listing agent has to add their seller's name, not assign fields. Assigning fields doesn't delete your buyer's signatures because it's a clickable spot for that. It allows them to add that change. But if they have to type here their seller's name, let me tell you what's going to happen if your buyer already signed. You're going to get a window that says, do you want to move forward and actually modify this document? By doing so, it's going to delete the buyer's signatures. Don't not get an offer accepted because now the listing agent has to send you back the contract that they verbally accepted and signed, and your buyer's at work and they're a brain surgeon and they're in surgery for 8 hours and they can't sign it again, and another offer came in. Can the seller still sell it to them? Well, they do all the time. So whether they can is a gray area, but they do. So don't lose out a transaction for your client because you didn't type the seller's name here. Type the seller's name. Where do you find it? On the tax record or on the property disclosure or both. Again, filling all this out, assigning those fields. Here's one that it didn't autofill. So you're going to have to type in your purchaser name and your seller's name and the property address. This was a flat PDF document. That's why it's not autofilled. It wasn't a prepared by the board MLS contract document that was done for us, like the legal documents are purchase agreement, listing agreement, agency disclosure. This is a Keller Williams document that was a flat PDF. That's why it doesn't autofill, if that makes sense. It doesn't matter why. It just matters that it just doesn't. And there's nothing that we can do about that. So again, sign here is not good enough. It needs to be assigned to who you want to sign there. Let me show you what it looks like. Let's just pretend that I'm going to sign this document here. And it says Gina sign here. This is what your client sees throughout all the documents. And then I'm going to click it, sign now. And this is what they're going to see. They're going to see, is everything spelled correctly? Here's what happens when your buyers want to screw things up. They want to draw a signature and they don't have a touch screen. So let me tell you when they start messing with this, you get a blank signature back. It just dates a blank signature. Tell them bypass all that. We don't need your drawn signature. Clicking is perfectly fine. The only thing they should be doing is changing a misspelled name. They don't need to do a draw signature. And then that's what it looks like when they sign it. That's an electronic signature, which is perfectly legal. And as you can see, it's time stamped by date and time. So therefore, when I'm adding, so let's just pretend like that's not there. And it's a document that I'm adding a signature to. I don't need to also add a date. I see you guys doing paperwork and I'm like, oh my gosh, the amount of wasted time adding dates everywhere. You didn't need to do that where you add initials and signatures because it already dates it. So if I have to add a this gets out of my way, a signature or a initial, you go back to this toolbar up here and hit add signature, and then you're going to drag it and drop it where it needs to go. And then you're going to come over here and assign the field. Same thing goes for initials, drag, drop it wherever you want it, assign field, boom. If I need to add a text box, same thing, add text box. And then I'm going to type something in that text box. Add a checkbox. I'm going to put a check next to this for some reason. The only thing I'm going to add a checkbox usually for is on the lead-based paint disclosure. Drop it, and then check by clicking in the center. Anyone that's trying to use an iPad or their cell phone to prepare documents, plan for 2 hours. It doesn't work properly. Yes? Yes. It's extremely difficult. It's not meant necessarily. So can we function in Dotloop with our phones and our iPads? Absolutely. I just wouldn't try to fill out documents that way. So here's an example of one that I need to add initials to. So I'm going to add initials and they're declining the home warranty, drop and assign. Add signature, drop and assign to whoever's going to do it. Another thing that I do in my own templates is fill out some of the paperwork that I can fill stuff in. So one of the documents that I always fill out ahead of time is the buyer's agency disclosure. And I always write this, and I can tell you guys, this is going to save you so much in the future. When you have an issue with a property that is a procuring cause situation, if you write the address of the property here, then that means you only represent them on that property. You don't represent them on anything that you show them on the property that you wrote the offer on. If you write the word residential property, and I also see this, we think we get a little bit tricky and want to add extra words like residential property in Stark County. Why would I want to limit myself to that? You don't need to put that. It's just simply residential property. You start adding extra things, you're limiting your representation. You don't have to say in the state of Ohio because you're licensed in the state of Ohio. Residential property means any residential property that we agree on. Now I'm going to show you or work with you, or that you even go out and buy from an open house. I represent you from today till whenever I decide that we agree on. There we go. So now it's any residential property for that period of time, not just 123 Main Street. So make sure that you clear that up there. Question so far, and I know we're going to run out of time here. You do sign that document. That's a contracts class thing, but you will have to sign the buyer's agency because that's an agreement between you and the buyer. So a document that you would have to, let me hit save here, add initials to would be like your property disclosure. Your property disclosure is a flat PDF that you scanned in, and therefore you will have to add the signatures and initials to that. If I want to archive something, I can always hit show archived and it'll come back. You can never trash or lose anything in dotloop. Anyway, now the documents are ready for the buyer to sign. I'm going to check the box and now I'm going to hit share. And it's going to tell me that these are my buyers that I'm not going to send it to because they'll think I'm crazy. These are past clients. And it says automatically that they have 13 fields and it's can sign. And then I would hit share and they'd get those documents. And when I do that, it's going to say waiting on others. And then I know once they sign, because that's going to change to signed. Once I get those back, we just go into a loop I actually have working. So then once they signed, let's just look here. No, it's not a filled out one. Anyway, doesn't matter. Once they signed it, well, it does matter because that's not going to work for what I'm trying to say. Agency disclosure. Yeah, so everybody's signed here. And so I made this a flat PDF because I had to add my client's signature because of course they did not put my seller's name on this document. I got notified in the loop that my client signed it. And then I was ready to send to the other agent. So now my buyer has signed. And now I'm ready to send the documents to the listing agent. So let me just pick this file for the heck of it. And then I hit share. And now let's just pretend like this is the listing agent. I want them to have can edit in private. When I do that, I don't want to mess up this document, so I'm going to say no. Then that way it gives a listing agent the ability to make changes to the document. If I don't say can edit in private, they cannot. So the only person that should have the can sign is your client. The other agent gets can edit in private until you have a fully signed contract. Now my seller has signed or my buyer has signed the counter offer. And now I'm sharing it back with the listing agent, which you have to remember, we don't have a deal until upon delivery, guys. They don't need a can edit in private again. I don't want anybody accidentally hovering over some signature and accidentally deleting it. Now they're going to get the can view. The other person who's going to get can view is going to be the title company and the lender. Questions?
So, sorry, the can edit in private, is that sending over where they will see like just the buyer signature or our signature?
Yep, they're gonna see the whole document. So let me go back to my example loop. So when I sent, so now the other agents opened up the loop. Because this is what it's gonna look like when they open it up. If you said can't edit in private, they're gonna see it just like this, but they're gonna see it in their own loop, not yours. It doesn't give them access to your loop, like how it gives me access when you add me to your team. You never want to add another agent to your team other than me. And where I mean that is here. So add person. Gonna pick myself there and see where it says add to my team. That's where you would check the box for add to my team. They only see the documents, but they do see the documents as you see them, which is signed by your client. It gives them the ability to add their seller signatures, and if they need to counteroffer, they can counteroffer that document. Otherwise, they get this screenshot view of the document, which isn't workable. A canned view is just like a screenshot image of the document. They can't, there's no cells, they can't do anything with it.
So they would like basically, let's say I've done this where I didn't do the can edit in private, I sent it over to them, they're essentially getting a flat PDF.
They're getting a flat PDF.
Okay.
And they're like, what is this? I can't do anything with it. Yep. So the only time we want them to get that is when we don't want them to do anything with it, right? Because it's already fully signed. That's it in a nutshell. So also when I said make copies, so you can do a couple things. So remember I said if you had to do another loop in, because you have to now create your loop in Command, or as you are starting to counter back and forth or shift addendums or paperwork from one loop to another, because the other agent now has sent you, let's say it's your listing, they've sent you a release of contingency in their loop. Your client, because I get this call all the time, I'm looking at the bottom and my client's not in this loop anymore. What happened to them? I can automatically tell you you're not in your loop. You're in the other agent's loop because your clients would be in your loop. So I don't add my clients to somebody else's loop. I make a copy of the document into my loop right here. So I can go here, click on make a copy. I can also check a box for everything and go to make a copy. When I go to make a copy, it's going to ask me, do I want it to still be a .loop document or do I now just want it to be a flat PDF? I can decide whichever I want, and then I can transfer it to whatever loop I want it to go in, which would be my other loop. Let's open it up for questions because I know we went 10 minutes over. Anybody here or anybody on Zoom? We'll say we've got 2 more minutes. I can tell you this. From this video, you will absolutely be able to navigate .loop and create a loop and start putting documents in there. It doesn't mean that you know how to fill out contracts if you haven't come to a contracts class, but you can't wait to sell real estate until you've gotten to a contracts class in some cases, depending on when contracts classes are at our brokerages. But you should absolutely be contacting me, Janice and Sarah, if you haven't sold a house yet, so that we can explain what you're doing so that you don't have to look like you're not prepared to your client or do something wrong, which we've had some crazy people doing some crazy things. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why we're here for you, you know, to be a resource. But it's also why we teach these classes, because you never know when the moment's going to be that someone is ready to work with you and then you're not prepared. So, but you should be able to navigate through .loop easily, and this video will be uploaded. So you should be able to have that. Questions? There's lots of other things that you can do in here, but that's basically it in a nutshell for you to be able to navigate. Yes. I don't, because now I'm 10 minutes late for my next appointment, but text me.
Okay.
All right, guys, I'm going to stop share. Thank you so much. And I will hopefully see most of you tomorrow at our open house class, and we will be discussing our winners of the contest. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.